Best Life podcast. With me today, I have my friend Serena, and she has a wonderful story to share that I think is really important to, talk about today. Welcome to the show, Serena.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
Now, you have a great story involving the virus.
I do.
Yes, the COVID. And I haven't really talked about that a lot in my podcast, but I've had some guests that have had some insights, about some things they've been dealing with their autoimmune conditions, that they think were kind of worsened when they did get the virus. And let's just get a little backstory on you first.
Okay.
So, um, so how did you? I know that we met in a carnivore support group.
We did.
Yes. So, what was your life before you started on this journey?
Well, I guess I'm probably your typical woman who has always been told to restrict what they eat to, maintain their weight. And I have, if you name the diet, I have tried it. I mean, I have tried everything from the cabbage soup diet to keto to Weight Watchers. I mean, I've tried everything over the years, and it was never a large amount of weight for me. It was, the 10 or 15 pounds that you need to lose after you've had a child, or just because you were complacent, you gain, 10 pounds or something. But I do for sure, and didn't realize it then, have a problem with carbohydrates. I have never been the kind of person that can just have one cookie or one cupcake. Never in my life. I can't even have one baked potato. And I have realized that over the last 6 or 7 months that I am, there's a difference between a moderator and an abstainer. And I just heard about this within the last few months from Katie Kelly. And there's a huge difference between a moderator and an abstainer. And all these years, I just thought, oh, this is me. I just have this problem, and I'm a carb addict, whatever. It didn't occur to me that there was kind of a term for the all or nothing approach. And for me, what I have learned is that I am absolutely an abstainer because I cannot moderate certain things in my diet. And really, I am kind of an all or nothing person throughout my life. I have 4 kids, we homeschool, we're busy all the time. And so the house is either really clean or it's a mess. My laundry is either all put away or none of it is put away. The kitchen, either the counters are covered with stuff or there's nothing on the counters. I have a hard time moderating just in general. But for me, it really came to light with the food issue. And, I always felt like there was something wrong with me. And I'm not saying there's not, but I always felt like there was something wrong with me, that we couldn't buy 1 pack of cookies. I had to have a second pack because I needed to know that I could have as many as I wanted. So I've learned a lot about myself. And like I said, I was always, in search of that last 5 or 10 or 15 pounds, after having each child, which I gained 80 with my first pregnancy, which is a lot for somebody who's only 5'3". So if that gives you any indication of what happens when I quit paying attention, I gained 80 pounds. And by the time I realized I was gaining weight much too quickly, it was really kind of too late. I was already halfway through, and that's the point where the baby starts gaining weight and your body starts holding on to things. And even then I went to kind of a diet approach at that point when I realized it. And even that, it didn't work at that point because I couldn't really do that. I was pregnant. But anyway, with the other 3 pregnancies, I gained 60 pounds, 50 pounds, and then 40 pounds. So that's a lot. And that is, again, an indication of just how I do things when I'm not paying attention. And so in the last 5 or 6 years, I actually did carnivore one time, not realizing that's what I was doing. I just thought that I was kind of being hardcore keto. And it was under a doctor, with the doctor's help. And he would tell me I could sprinkle in some vegetables, but I knew those had a lot of carbs, even if I did, the lower carb vegetables like salad. And I knew that I had a hard time with that. So even then, for those several months, I didn't eat any vegetables or fruits or anything like that. And then, and it worked. I mean, I was doing well. I felt really good. I was taking some supplements to clean out my body and detoxify under this doctor's care. And then, you get complacent and the weight starts to come back. And I do think that I, probably have some hormone issues at this point. I am 48 and, things are starting to change for me. So in any case, so then we had all the quarantine stuff, everybody's got to stay home. And I know a lot of people gained weight at that time because we didn't have anywhere to be. We couldn't, go to the gyms and things like that. And I put on about 20 pounds. And when I realized it, so this was 2020, when I realized it, that summer, I did Weight Watchers. And I had this issue with all or nothing. So even with that plan, I was just doing exactly what they told me to do, just the very bare minimum, because that has to work. And if this much works, then less than that must work better. So I always had this history of restricting, even when it wasn't really on purpose. I just was doing the minimum. And after 6 weeks of weighing exactly the same to the ounce, like basically I would go up half a pound, down half a pound, up a pound, down a pound. It was like within the same 2 pounds the entire time. And no matter what I did, I was running at the time, I was lifting some weights, and it didn't matter what I did. That's just how it stayed. And so I realized what I started thinking was, so I am either overeating, which really isn't likely at this amount of food, or I'm undereating. Like there is no way that this is my maintenance. So I finally figured out the calorie intake that went along with those points I was counting. And I was eating about 900 calories on a daily basis. And I was full because I was filling up on all this, all these low calorie, abundance things that take up space in my stomach. But most of the stuff came out of a package. Most of it had artificial ingredients in it, but eventually it worked. I raised I almost doubled the amount that I was eating and started losing weight. And I got down to within about 8 pounds of my goal. And that's when the virus hit.
Oh.
And from there, things just kind of got worse for me. I was very, very sick for, I don't know, like 9 days or something in bed for most of it. Luckily, I didn't have the breathing issues. If I'd have had any kind of breathing trouble, I absolutely would have ended up in the hospital. I mean, my body hurt like my bones were being broken one at a time. I mean, I've never been in that kind of pain before. It was really, really bad. And my kids had it at the same time. It was just a really not a good time. It was the month of December, and we ended up being in our house for something like, 25 days or something. It was just really, really bad. So, so after that is when, I knew that I had to make a change and get healthier, that perhaps even though I was at a good weight, maybe there were underlying things that were wrong with me that made it so bad for me when other people, one of my daughters, for instance, got a fever of 99 for like 36 hours. And then aside from being a little bit tired, she was fine, but meanwhile, myself and 2 of my kids, we were in bed for a while, high fevers. And so I decided that, something was going to have to change.
Wow, that is an incredible story. Yeah. And then back to, how when you were before Weight Watchers, how was and you said you were a carb addict. What kind of carbs were your go-tos is what I'm curious about.
Boy, I have a thing for cupcakes for sure. I have a huge thing for cupcakes. So the other thing I should have mentioned is that I am gluten-free, and I have been since probably either 2012 or 2013. I can't really remember. It was just an experiment. But this is just really even more of a reason we have to be our own advocates. I had restless leg syndrome for years. And when I had it, I don't know, 20 years ago, it was when I was pregnant, and then I didn't really have it anymore. And then when I had my 3rd child, I had it like really, really bad, and I wasn't sleeping very well. And so I went to the doctor and told him about it, and he put me on a drug to help me sleep. And I took it because I was desperate. I was pregnant. I had 2 other kids at home. At that point, they were like, my other 2 kids were 4 and 6. So I had to be sleeping. And so I took that and had her, and it went away. But with my 4th child, it was so bad that medicine quit working. And they sent me to a neurologist who said, I don't know, but you can take Valium. And although it's a Schedule C drug and we don't know what kind of effects it's going to have on the baby, you might lose the baby because you're not sleeping anyway. So we want you to take it every other night if you can to catch up on your sleep. I mean, there were nights where I was pacing in the living room for 3 or 4 hours in the middle of the night with a 1.5-year-old upstairs who, was still waking up in the middle of the night sometimes. And also, my 2 other kids. And by the time they were ready to wake up in the morning, I felt like I could sleep. Like I would finally be able to go back to sleep at like 5 in the morning, and then they'd be up at 7. And so I had a really hard time. And so I did take the Valium, even though I was worried about it. But the doctor just said, you're going to have to sleep. And so in the end, what ends up happening is years later, my, I guess she was maybe 7 at the time, had this weird rash. And I had talked to a friend whose son, who they had to be gluten-free. And she said, that looks like a gluten rash. And so I took her to the doctor, and he said, it doesn't really look like a gluten rash, but you can take some things out of her diet if you want to. And so for about 2 weeks, I told her, I'll do it with you. And I always knew that I slept really good when I was like juice fasting, or, eating only vegetables, or, something like that. When I was doing something extreme, I always knew that I slept better, but I just thought it was because I was sleeping better. It didn't occur to me that there was an underlying cause for that. And so we went off wheat, and she was at a church function, and the teacher said, hey, we're going to have pizza tonight. What do you want me to do? And I said, well, if I'm not back in 30 minutes with a gluten-free pizza, just let her have it. He said, are you sure? I said, yes. I picked her up that night. And when I went to go put her in bed, she said, Mom, I'm all itchy and my legs won't be still.
Oh.
That was such a light bulb moment for me, because she had been not a good sleeper. I mean, at this point, even she was 7, I was still getting up in the middle of the night with her. We lived in a camper for 2 years and traveled around the country when she was little. When our youngest was 6 months old, we sold almost everything we had and moved into this camper. And my 2-year-old, she was like 2.5 at the time, and she would get up. I would be, nursing the baby in the living room, and she would get up and just stand next to me, like this, and wait for me to be done. And I would put the baby back in bed, and then I would pick her up and I would put her back in her bed. I mean, we did that sometimes for 3 or 4 hours in the middle of the night. She would get up, I would take her back to her bed. She would get up. It never occurred to me that she had restless leg syndrome. So when she said that to me, I started crying and apologized to her for all the nights that I was not so nice in the middle of the night. Cause you wake up over and over and over again,
Yeah.
And I felt so bad that I didn't know that there was something causing her to wake up. I mean, we really have to pay attention to what we put in our bodies and what we give to our kids. And so I tested it and ate a piece of pizza the next day, and I was up all night long. And so that's when we realized that we have an intolerance. This is what it's from. It's just her and I and our family that have this, but it interrupts our sleep. It makes us miserable, and the reason probably that I was able to fall asleep at about 5 in the morning was because the wheat was leaving my system from whatever. I was making homemade pizza and homemade bread, whole wheat with extra gluten in it to make it puffy. And I mean, I was experimenting. I was cooking stuff like that every single day, and just added to this issue that we were having. And then when I was pregnant, nobody said, and I was faced with taking Valium to sleep, nobody said to me, have you examined your diet? Are you allergic to something? Nobody said that to me when I couldn't sleep. And so if I had known that it was wheat, I would have taken it out so long ago. So I guess that's something else that I just wanted to mention, is that we really have to kind of be our own advocates. And that's what happened when I decided to start carnivore. It was like, okay, I'm going to have to do this for myself, because there isn't anybody else that's going to help me figure out, what else is going on with me.
No, and now that you mentioned that about the restless legs, I had that too around like 2014.
Really?
Yeah, and that's when I started taking out the gluten first, because there was a big thing around that. At that time, it was becoming more prevalent that people did have sensitivities. And it was kind of like a joke, like, oh, sure, now you are gluten intolerant.
That's right.
It's like,
And
well, I don't know, but my throat started closing up when I would eat bread.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then I always had these gut issues, these bloating and stuff like that, but I never made the connection until I took it out.
Right.
And then I put it back in, and something, this was a light bulb moment for me, was that I instantly got depressed. And I was generally a happy person, but I would have moments of depression, anxiety, and then I had that restless leg. I didn't know that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But my legs were always like shape. I can remember from a very young age. I was just I thought it was anxiety, but my legs always had to be moving.
I have a friend who gave up wheat like as a trial, and realized she definitely is allergic to wheat, but through trial and error, what she figured out is that she can eat ancient wheat, but not modern wheat. You know, people say it's all the things in the soil and all the pesticides and stuff, that it might not actually be the wheat, it might be what they're putting on it. I don't know. It's really not worth it for me to try, because the misery that comes from eating it, even by accident. I mean, at this point, one bite of a muffin that somebody says to me is gluten-free and is not, you know, once I find out that it's not, it's because I found out that it's not, because my body told me within a couple of hours, if I sit down, my legs start to jerk. You know, and usually typically things like that are worse after you take it out for a while and then add it back in. And so for me, I can tell immediately almost immediately whether or not something has wheat in it.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is, and I've talked to other people about this, is that in probably the late 70s or 80s is when they started spraying all the wheat crops,
right,
with all of these pesticides.
That's right.
And glyphosate is the big one.
Yes. So it could be one of those things causing it and not actually the wheat, but it's just not worth it for me to try something else.
Yeah, and that's what we have to think about, is no matter what diet you want to follow, or you know, whatever your goals are, you have to kind of listen to your body. Your body gives you biofeedback every day, you know, but you have you can't be blind, you know. A lot of people just ignore it.
You know? I know, and that's the thing, is that I think people don't realize, and when you use the scenario of like putting the wrong fuel in your car or something, but it really is true. And I think I would say 95%, maybe more, of people don't equate what they're putting in their body with how they feel. And to me, that is just a huge problem, that people don't look at it like they can do anything about their circumstances and what their body is doing and what their body is telling them, unless they go to the doctor and the doctor gives them a medication for it. That is the only way that people see. And I have seen one of those little like pictures going around on social media that says, if your doctor is not asking you what you're eating, you're at the wrong doctor. I mean, when there is anything wrong, if your doctor isn't asking you what you're actually putting into your body, then there's a problem. If they say, oh, well, that's what's wrong with you, okay, here's a medicine, and then here's a medicine to cover up the side effects from that medicine, and you know, you get into this like loop of taking more and more medications. I actually went for my yearly girl checkup the other day, and the lady at the front office gave me the stack of paperwork to fill out, you know, to make sure all my information is still correct. And I filled everything out, and the last sheet was a medication sheet, and I just drew a line through it and took it back up. Said, oh, you didn't fill out the medication sheet. And I said, well, that's because I'm not taking the medication. She goes, oh, okay, well, tell the nurse that. And I said, okay. And the nurse takes me back, does my blood pressure and everything. And then she says, did she not give you a medication sheet? And I said, no, she did, but I didn't fill it out because I'm not taking any medication. And she goes, really? And I said, yeah. And she goes, oh. And she takes me back. And then this doctor that I've been going to for 23 years comes in, and he says, there's no medication sheet here. You're not taking any medication? And I said, nope, none. He said, really? I said, yes. I'm only 48. I mean, is it really, are most 48-year-olds taking so much medication that my doctor and 2 nurses can't imagine that I'm not taking anything? I mean, I can't imagine that that's where we are, is, you know, that almost everybody is taking something, you know.
Well, sadly,
I mean, I just think
that's true, because when I go to the doctor, it's the same, you know, the same thing. And I'm 42, but I've always been very leery of medications, just because I've seen the bad, you know, the side effects in my family. And I just never wanted to be on medications at all, you know.
Me too. I actually, I use a lot of essential oils. I don't know if you use those, but we have had such good luck, even with 4 kids. We haven't taken the kids to the doctor for a sickness in like 8.5 years. I mean, we don't need to. You know, as my medicines expired, we threw them in the trash, and we use other things instead. And I have found that we actually get over sicknesses. Even we get a sickness from somebody, like, oh, sorry, my child was sick the other day when we were with you, we get over it faster than they do. And they're over there, you know, giving their kids all kinds of medicines and things like that. And I find that we get over our sicknesses a lot quicker and a lot easier than most other people do.
Yes. And I mean, that's the good thing, you know, about some of these natural supplements or natural, you know, ways of doing things, is that our bodies can, you know, build up a good immune system. You know?
Yeah, they really can. Yeah, I saw somebody say the other day that meat is food and plants are medicine. And I completely agree with
Yeah.
that. I thought that was really good.
No, I completely agree with that too, because I think there's been too much emphasis put on plants to be food, you know, but the problem that a lot of people don't realize is that our bodies aren't meant to break down the plants. There may be vitamins in these plants, but you need to do certain things to extract those vitamins, and our bodies cannot extract the vitamins in the plant.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, but I think that if we can use them very strategically, you know, make tonics out of them, or that's
right.
That's one way that I have my digestive issues is by doing essential oils, and then I have a local shop here that does like tinctures and stuff.
Nice, that's great.
Yeah, but yeah, just I love that mentality for medicine,
Yeah, I do too.
And then if you look at the ancient cultures, how our ancestors did things, that is what they were using plants for. If they were shamans and
that's right.
And they were using them to heal people,
I know modern medicine has only been around for about 100 years. I mean, and, a lot of people live longer than we do today because that's about, we didn't have a lot of preservatives in our food or anything then either. It's just everybody is in just such a toxic environment between the foods and the medicines. There are so many things that are causing us to just not be very healthy.
Yes. Well, now let's get back into your experience with COVID.
Okay.
Okay. So walk me back when you had it, because there's some after effects that you are dealing with still, right?
And that's actually, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. That's actually what led me to carnivore the second time around. Like I said, the first time I didn't even know that's what I was doing. I just was trying to eat extremely low carb. But so December of 2020 is when I was sick, and of course lost my sense of taste and smell like most people did at that time. And after that, it came back a little bit. It was very muted though up until March. Like every now and then I would notice, oh, this is stronger than it was yesterday, or that it has been. But things were still very muted. In March, one day I woke up and came downstairs to make myself a cup of coffee, and the smell, the only way I could describe it at the time was it was like a rotten skunk carcass that somebody had lit on fire. It was burned, but it wasn't like a skunk. It was the most disgusting smell I've ever smelled in my life. And I thought it was just coffee. And a couple of days later, I realized that there were many other things. We were driving in the car and I got my daughter some fries, and out of instinct, I just put my hand out and she handed me one. I was driving a stick shift at the time. And as it got right here, I realized this is not going to end well. Like I could smell it and I just thought there is no way. And I let go of it in my mouth. And then I just started like screaming with my mouth closed. Like I had to figure out something to do with this. I almost pulled over. Eventually I managed to get my window down and spit it out. But the smell and the taste were just, and then like I could taste it all day. I couldn't get it to go away. And after that, I started kind of experimenting and smelling things around the house and stuff, and realized there was a pretty long list of things that smelled, and that fry tasted and smelled exactly like my coffee. Like the things that have and had that smell, it's all the same. There is no difference. I can't tell what is what. It's just disgusting. And so within the next couple of weeks, it kept getting worse. And there were many days over the next month, maybe, where I would find myself just laying around kind of all day because the smell in here, like it's just in there sometimes and you can't get rid of it. I've had to leave the house when when my kids were making eggs one time. I actually had to leave the house. This is probably like April or May. Just really, really nauseating. And I have seen two different sides of the spectrum from Facebook groups that I'm in for. It's called Porosmia, and it's the actual definition is distorted sense of taste and smell. So it's different than anosmia, which is when you lose your sense of taste and smell. And so in some of the groups that I'm in, I have seen people who have gained 100 pounds because all they can eat is sweet stuff. And then I have seen people on feeding tubes because they literally can't keep any food down because of the smell. So I was kind of in the middle. only wanted sweet stuff because it was the only thing that tasted good. And I would try to eat other things, and then I would just be so nauseous I couldn't eat. And because my body immediately goes into this starvation mode or crisis mode when I don't eat enough, I was gaining weight from the foods that I was eating, even if I was under the amount of calories that I should be eating in a day. My body just, calories in, calories out's a hoax. My body immediately, from years of restricting and stuff, just goes into this crisis mode. And so I was gaining just little bits of weight. And then all I wanted was the sweet stuff. I could eat pretzels, like at some point, but deli meats were not good. Like the healthier foods that I had been eating with Weight Watchers, because that's when I was still doing Weight Watchers, most of them I could not eat. So it became very difficult for me to continue with that. And so in May, I kind of gave that up and just decided I was in survival mode at this point, just trying not to gain a lot of weight because of the foods that I was choosing. And then my birthday is May 22nd. And so my girls are gluten-free bakers. They started when they were 9 and 11, two of my girls, and now they are 13 and 15, and they sell at the farmer's market. They take special orders, and they make the most fabulous cupcake. And so for my birthday, I asked them to make me cupcakes. Then I asked them to double the batch, which was a bad sign because that means I'm going to eat a bunch. And I probably ate close to over the weekend. I mean, it was like I was hiding it. I was eating them and then, acting like I did, eating them alone in the kitchen where nobody can see me. Because that was what was filling this void that I had for the foods that I wanted to eat and couldn't. Mm-hmm. Most meats were off limits at that point. And so I couldn't eat any vegetables. I couldn't eat any fruits. So it was literally like the carby things were the only things that I could really eat. And so I woke up Monday morning, that was on that next Monday on the 24th of May, and said, that's it for me. And so then I started doing research, like, what does this mean? If I can't eat vegetables and I can't eat fruits right now because of the smell and the taste, and I'm giving up all sweet stuff because that's the only thing I want, what does this mean? What am I? And that's how I found carnivore. So I found Laura Spath and I found Kelly Hogan and Michaela Peterson, and just kind of dove in to this healing process and the reduced inflammation. And at that point, there was not a lot of research about what this is and how to fix it. As far as we know, there still is no way to fix this. It's just time. And there are certain things that can make it be a little bit better. Some people heal faster than others. So there's no way to know where I would be if I was not a carnivore. But I can say that the healing has been easier, I think, than so many other people that I see that are struggling. So what I did was, when I was doing all that research, I looked at this handful of things. I mean, you could count them on one hand at one point, the amount of foods that I could eat. And that made me a carnivore. So it's really bizarre. I could eat a fresh hamburger off the grill, but I couldn't eat it if I refrigerated it and then warmed it the next day. Isn't that bizarre? It's like a chemical reaction. I could eat a fresh steak, but I couldn't eat it with any seasonings, and I couldn't eat it the next day if I warmed it. So I'm doing all this beef, and then I decide, and chicken was a big no-no, and it still is. Certain chickens, like I can't go to Chick-fil-A. When I get Chick-fil-A for my kids in the car, I'm pretty much just breathing through my mouth all the way home because the smell is so bad. Tried to eat it once, it made me sick. So I made a beef roast, and as soon as I opened the Instant Pot, it made me sick. So a beef roast, and a beef roast still smells rotten. But I can eat steak and I can eat hamburger. It's just the most bizarre thing. Eventually it got to the point where I could eat chicken, just like if I make it here at home, but I can't eat like a certain season. They tend to season chicken a lot in restaurants. So I don't usually get chicken if we eat out, and certainly not Chick-fil-A still. But I can definitely eat certain chicken the way that I make it at home. And I can eat beef now, all kinds of beef. I haven't tried a beef roast in a while because the experience was so awful. So I just haven't even tried it in a long time. But it got to the point where I could eat my meats rewarmed. And then as soon as I could eat chicken, I started making chicken wings for myself because that's one of my favorite things, just in the air fryer. So now we're at the point where, and I can say that across the board for most people in my group, the things that you have to stay away from the entire time you have parosmia are garlic, onion, anything mint. Toothpaste has made me vomit before. I've had to start using children's toothpaste, and that's like across the board. That's what people do. Most colognes and perfumes and things like that. Lots and lots of body lotions and shampoos and conditioner. Coffee for most people, which I can finally drink a cup of coffee and it's enjoyable, but it does not smell or taste like coffee. It's really just kind of doesn't have much flavor at this point. But the garlic and onion are huge, and popcorn is awful. They're chocolate. When I smell chocolate and peanut butter, there are still many things that I cannot. Sometimes my daughter makes a steak and puts a certain seasoning on it that I usually love, but it does not smell good to me at all. So there's still a pretty long list of things. It's definitely still affects me on a daily basis, whether we're home or out, just depending on what my people are eating. It's really weird because I can eat, chicken that I have cooked here at home, but if I open a bag of gluten-free chicken tenders for my girls or something, the smell of that is just awful. So I don't know if it's the seasoning in it or if it's, whatever is on the outside to make it crispy. I'm not sure what it is, but there's still lots and lots of things that I can't eat. Like I said, it still affects me on a daily basis, but I do feel like being a carnivore has helped me a lot. And the way that I think that it has helped me the most is mentally, because at the beginning, for the first 2 months where I just kept trying things and smelling things and thinking, oh, I can fix this. Oh, I can eat that. I can power through it. I was sad all the time. I mean, my eyes, welled up with tears at a restaurant on my son's graduation day when we all went out to eat because I ordered a salad and the lettuce just smelled so rotten to me. So it's like, people say, oh, just eat it. But if you put something rotten in front of somebody and tell them to eat it, they're not going to, they can't. And my brain is telling me that food is rotten. And so I was sad all the time. I was a little bit depressed, I think. I was having a really hard time with the fact that eating out was so hard, with, eating at home was so hard because I was trying to cook like normal, but I couldn't eat most of the foods I was making. Spaghetti sauce, Alfredo, chili, taco seasoning. I mean, think about the amount of foods that garlic and onion are in. I can't, it's really hard for me to be in the same room. So going out to eat is difficult because restaurants smell like food. They smell like garlic, they smell like onion. And most of the time you walk into a restaurant and think, wow, that smells so good. But for me, it's like a nightmare. And it's still like that. I don't talk about it as much anymore because my family is sick of hearing about it. And sometimes, they'll be walking by me with food and I'll say, can I smell that? And I smell it. And then I turn my nose up and my family will be like, great, I can't wait to eat this food that you think smells so repulsive. And I'm like, sorry. So I try not to talk about it as much anymore, but I just keep hoping that they're going to walk past me with a bowl of chili one day and it's not going to smell, as bad as it does. I have had a few days in the last 9 months where things smelled and tasted normal, and that was after an extended fast. So if I fast for 4 days or 5 days, typically, everything comes back and I have, like 1 or 2 good days, and then it goes right back with the exception of it's not as bad as it was for certain things. So after a fast like that one time was when I was able to eat chicken for the first time. And then everything else went back to being rotten, but chicken stayed. That I can't eat any kind of deli meats. I can't eat salami or pepperoni or Slim Jims, like those kinds of things still. And all store-bought beef jerky are still really, really bad. So it still limits what I eat even within carnivore. But for the most part, I do feel like like my inflammation is down. I'm sure of that because I cut out dairy for the month of February and had it on Super Bowl Sunday. I made kind of a carnivore-ish cheesecake and had a slice. And the next day when I got out of bed, every joint in my body hurt. All of my muscles were sore. And I, went back to not eating dairy so that, now I know that I'm not inflamed because that was inflamed for me. And now I'm not.
Yeah.
So I feel good. But emotionally, more than anything, it took the guesswork out of everything for me, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. I know what I'm eating. I know what I'm eating today. So mentally, even just from a carb addict kind of standpoint, and then even more is the Parosmia issue. I'm not worried about it anymore. Am I going to be able to eat dinner tonight? Am I going to be able to eat at that restaurant? Because everybody has a hamburger. I can get any kind of hamburger patty anywhere. Most restaurants charge you less if you just get a hamburger patty. So I'm feeling good. And I do feel like it has helped me with this issue a lot. And so I tell other people about it, but the downside is that a lot of other people aren't at the point where they can eat meat yet. And so that makes it a lot harder. So I was lucky that I was actually able to eat several different kinds of meat at the time where I switched to carnivore, because that's kind of what got me through until it started getting better.
Wow, there's so many Takeaways from this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an incredible story, and I can't imagine what it's like to try to eat something and have it taste like garbage, you
Yeah,
know?
I will tell you that all of those things that I listed, plus public restrooms, all smell the same.
Oh gosh.
So if you can imagine somebody is telling you, just plow through it, just eat the salad. I can't. I can't because it's the same smell. It's the same smell as a skunk. Now, like we'll smell something while we're in the car and I'll say, "What is that?" And my kids will say it's a skunk. And sometimes I come into the house and I say, "What did somebody cook?" And they'll say, "Oh, that's popcorn." I don't know what those things are because they all smell the same. So it's a lot of guessing, asking people what's in that bowl or what is that I'm smelling. Because I can't. My older kids will come home with a food container and I can smell it, but I have no idea what's in it, because it's that same smell.
Yeah, and well, and what I have experienced since going full carnivore in
Mm.
January, the opposite of what you've experienced, where I could, my sense of smell is heightened, my sense of taste has changed.
Hmm.
And I am more sensitive to things, but they don't smell horrible. They smell good
Right.
to, they smell
Right. Right.
good,
Because
which
it's
is,
heightened. Yes.
yeah, it's like it's heightened, but my palate has become more refined where I could taste everything.
And I have one thing
Right.
that I have noticed is like if one of my kids puts a lemon with a little bit of mold in the trash can, it's really weird that
Oh
this is
gosh.
the one specific thing that I notice all the time. I can smell mold really, really well.
Mhm.
So if one of my daughters goes to the fridge to get a lemon for their water and finds a little bit of mold and they throw it in the trash, I can smell it until we replace the trash can. And I'll ask everybody, "Do you smell that?" And everybody says no. I
Yeah.
can walk past things and say, "What is that? That smells rotten," or, but just typically overall, I tend to smell things before everybody else does. Like I'll say,
Yes.
"What is that smell?" And they'll say, "I don't smell anything at all." But then eventually they find out what it is and they'll say, "Oh, I do smell that now." And the other
Yes.
thing that I have is phantosmia, which is phantom smells. Have you had any of that?
I have. Yes,
You have.
I have, it's very sporadic for me. Like I'll smell something and there's no rhyme or reason for it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know where
Cigarette
it's
and
coming
gasoline
from.
smell. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Cigarette and gasoline are the most common as far as phantom smells go. And so we have just been like sitting in the living room and I'll say, "I just want to be sure nobody else smells smoke." Right. And then the other weird thing is that I smell gasoline a lot of times. But that's not what gas smells like when I go to the gas station to get gas. It has
Oh.
like this weird chemical smell at the gas station. But when I have phantom smells, I actually smell gasoline. Isn't that bizarre? Really,
Yeah.
really weird. And when I'm smelling that gasoline smell, like when you're at a gas station, you're smelling like really, really strong chemicals. It's actually a little bit hard to breathe. Like your
Hmm.
voice is almost funny because you can't get enough air to breathe. That actually happens to me when I'm smelling gasoline, even though there is no actual gasoline, but my body has that same, or my brain has that same reaction to the gasoline smell as it does when there is actual gasoline. But yet I don't smell
Wow.
gasoline at the gas station. It's really weird.
Yeah, that is strange. And I'm wondering, of course, I don't know if are they doing any kind of research on this
There are
since there are
places
so many
doing,
people that are suffering.
yeah, there are places doing research, and there are all kinds of remedies around. Like at the beginning, people were saying light an orange on fire or burn an orange, and then uh, eat some of the peel or smell the peel or something. And so many people have said that didn't work. Essential oil smell training. I teach essential oil classes for a living, but I can honestly
Mhm.
say that did not work for me. It has worked for us in other crazy, miraculous ways in our house and in our family, but
Yeah.
that did not work for me. Alpha lipoic acid, zinc, vitamin C, you name the cure, I've pretty much tried it. I haven't tried acupuncture.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's some sort of a block that people are doing now at this place in Texas, and people are actually flying into Texas
Oh,
to do
wow.
this. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I'm ready to do that on something that some people say works and some people say doesn't. A lot of people will say, "Oh, that worked for me. You should do that." But then other people say, "Oh, I did that and spent $1,000 and it didn't work." So
Now, what
that's
is
not
it?
something that I,
Explain to me, what is the block?
I'm not really sure. I probably shouldn't have mentioned it because I don't know what it's actually
Oh, no,
called.
it's okay.
Ganglion block or something. And I have seen
Oh.
videos. It's like a doctor does something. I think it's behind your neck, maybe is what
Hmm.
I saw in one of the videos. But a doctor has to do it. They have to, like know what they're doing. And there are only a few places around the country that I have seen anyway that are doing this. And it's just not something that I'm willing to put the money and time into if it's not a guaranteed. Like if somebody said, oh, this works for everybody, and nobody popped on and said, oh, that didn't work for me, maybe. But I'm just not willing to spend the money and the time, because I've done that with so many remedies so far. And that's the other thing I kind of stopped, was the remedies, because I just thought that's just getting my hopes up every time, and then finding that it doesn't work. One more thing that I tried that didn't work. And I don't want to do that. I'm comfortable, where I am. I wish that I did not have this. Part of me sometimes wishes that I never got my sense of taste and smell back, because then at least I wouldn't have to smell all the time. And I've actually seen people that have had surgery because their issues are so bad that they take out their, the part of them that smells, in their nasal passages and things like that. And, so they're never going to be able to smell anything again, but their issue was so bad, they had no choice because they were just sick all the time from it. And so, that's really sad. But I just kind of decided that it's just not worth it for me to keep trying these things, that most specialists will say that time is what's going to fix it. Yeah. And so for me, it's just not worth getting my hopes up all the time. I'll just do what I'm doing. I feel good. I'm fairly happy. I like the food I'm eating. Just not everybody is as lucky as that.
And yeah, there's just, there's so much that we don't know, especially about this virus, because I did have it too. But I had it twice, and the second time I didn't lose my sense of taste or smell. But the first time I remember I did, and then it was really weird because it was like, it made me not want to eat anything, because I couldn't taste anything, and I can't, I can't imagine where you're at, where a lot of things taste horrible, or, just not having the sense of taste or smell, it affects so much.
Yeah, it really does. I burn things all the time. And, because I'll go upstairs and think I'll be back down in 10 minutes when that's ready. And then everybody's yelling, I think it's done. I think it's done. And I've only been up there 8 minutes, but I can't smell it yet, So that happens a lot here, where my family has to take things out of the oven or turn off the stove, because I don't know when things are done, So it's, it can actually be.
It's our alert system, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm down a sense, basically, one of my 7 senses doesn't work so well. So, yeah, it's fine. It's life altering, but it's not deadly, or, luckily I didn't end up, I don't want to maximize it, make it seem like it's the worst thing in the world, because luckily I don't have heart issues or anything like that. Like I know some people do, or, extensive lung problems. As far as I know, aside from this, I don't have anything that was lasting. And so I'm grateful for that, but people do minimize this, and it is really life altering for a lot of people. And it has been for me. There isn't much I wouldn't give to be able to go, smell some deli meat and have it smell like deli meat, or actually be able to taste a piece of pepperoni for a treat every now and then or something, but boy, you put a cupcake in front of me and it tastes like a cupcake. So that's a hard,
okay.
Because if sweet stuff really does taste the way it tastes the way I remember it tasting. So, so it makes it that much harder to stay away from those things when I know that those things are going to taste right, But like I said, I'm pretty happy. I eat lots of steak and eggs. I've given up dairy, but up until then I was, eating delicious cheeses on my eggs. And, but I eat steak and chicken wings and grilled chicken with, a sugar-free sauce on it every now and then for a treat, and lots of hamburger patties and, bacon and beef bacon. And so I'm not sad about that at all.
No, that sounds delicious. Yeah. And actually, it sounds really good to me right now, because I'm finishing up my 48-hour fast, as you know.
Oh, are you really? That's funny. I started one yesterday.
Really?
I'm like almost at 24 hours.
Yeah, well, I gotta say, doing this feasting and fasting program with Coach Raymond and Emily, it's really a game changer for me, because I've done a lot of fasting in the past, but it's been a couple years. I stopped fasting altogether. But I had just pushed through. I did a 7-day fast in 2019, and then in 2020 I did a 5-day fast. And I struggled with that one, but this is like,
Yeah.
48. I'm feeling good,
Yeah. Yeah. I find that their schedule is easy to follow. And it's nice to have a schedule that you didn't make up that you feel like, you have to follow that or something. I think that helps a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this has been an incredible informational story. And,
Thank
I just
you.
hope that, through you stay with the carnivore journey, and you just continue to heal and
Yeah, me too.
continue to inspire others. Because, I have seen some stories where, um, you know, months in or even a year in, people see some dramatic changes through
Yes,
carnivore.
me too. Me too. And I do feel really good. And like I said, mentally for me has been the biggest change because I was consumed by what I was going to eat a lot,
Yeah.
and what am I going to eat at this restaurant? What am I going to, because I was always watching what I ate. And so this is so much easier to stick with, I mean, like, it's just, it's really just amazing to be able to not really think about food all the time when that has been ingrained in us for so long.
Know that food freedom is amazing.
Yes.
I felt
Yeah.
that too, that, I was always thinking about food, what am I going to eat? How's it going
Mhm.
to affect my weight or my
Right.
inflammation or this or
Yeah.
that? But just having a simple diet that you can stick to without the complications.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It was just 9 months for me this past week. And I can honestly say there have been, you could count on two hands the amount of times I have eaten something that was not carnivore.
Mhm.
And I did go off the rails just a little bit at Christmas, but even then it was only 3 or 4 items. It did last a couple of days. But I hopped right back on, which was a lot easier than I expected it to be because in the past, when I go off, I go off, and it takes me a long time to kind of get back on. But bacon, I can have as much bacon as I want.
Yeah.
So
Hello.
like that, yeah, I mean, so I just hopped right in and made a couple of pans of bacon and I was good. Like
Yes. Bacon
I think
saves
people,
all.
it really does. I mean, I think people underestimate um how you feel on a good clean diet. Even if people feel like they're not completely ready to go carnivore, even being keto and giving up all the processed foods. And I mean, I don't think fruits and vegetables are evil or anything like that.
Yeah.
They do smell rotten to me right now, though. I could probably eat some berries, right? I could probably eat some fruits right now, but I'm
Mm.
choosing not to because eating some of those makes me want more of those. And then it makes me want more carbs.
Yeah.
But I think people just underestimate how you can feel with if you're eating a clean diet. I think at the very least, everybody should give up the processed carbs, the prepackaged foods, even the keto treats, and
Yeah.
eliminate the white things from their diet and the starchy carbs. And I think the health of Americans would drastically change if we gave up soda and those other things. I think
Yes.
Americans could be a lot healthier and pretty quickly if we gave up all that stuff.
Oh gosh, you're speaking my language, girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what I tell everyone when I talk about what I'm doing right now is that you don't need to do this,
Right.
um, but just taking that first step. I think people get really, especially lately, we're overwhelmed with,
Yeah,
oh,
I agree.
you need these macros, you need this amount of protein and fat,
Yes.
you need this amount of carb, and I just say no to all of that. Just
Hmm.
start, I coach people and I tell them, just, we're going to start where you are. Don't get
Right.
overwhelmed. Just
Hmm.
take out the sugar, take out the grains,
Right.
take out
Hmm.
the flour. Just
Yeah, absolutely.
take out those three things first, and then we'll layer. You just layer
Right.
on the other thing. Don't do it.
Right.
You don't
Absolutely.
have to do it all in one day. you
Right.
know.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And what happens is people start slowly like that and they see more and more of a difference the farther they go. And then that makes continuing really easy.
Yes, yes, because I didn't do this all overnight.
Right.
I tried, I failed, I tried.
That's right.
I experimented, I listened to my body. And your
Hmm.
body will tell you what you need to do to feel your best and to heal your body.
That's exactly right. Yeah. We just have to listen to it though. That's the problem is people really just don't know and they don't listen.
Yes. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, Serena.
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, and let us know where can we see you, connect with you, get more information about your journey.
So on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, I'm the same across the board. It's Carnivore Running Mom.
Okay, awesome. And
Thank
yeah, tell
you.
me about your name. How did you come up with that?
Well, I was looking for something. It used to be peace, love, and wellness, which I liked, but
Mhm.
I wanted it. I wanted it to also reflect the new way of eating, because I feel like that's a good way to reach people and get people to try it and be able to find me easier. And I run not as much as I used to,
Mhm.
but I do still do some sprinting a couple or a few times a week. I'm trying to reduce some stress on my body by not putting in so much time running. It's just very stressful on your body sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I'm a mom, so I don't know. I
Yeah.
just kind of came up with it one day, and I just thought, well, it's a little bit catchy, and maybe some runners will find me, and some people looking for carnivore will find me, and other moms will find me. So I just
Oh,
thought if I can make a difference, even with just a couple of people to remove the processed carbs from their diet and stuff, then it's worth trying.
no, definitely. I love it. I love the
Yeah.
name.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
well, thank you for coming on today, and
Thank you for having me.
yeah, and I'll probably see you in some of the meetings soon.
Yes, you will. I'll see you later on today, probably.
Yes, yes. I love the meetings. They're really good just to, even though I don't talk in a lot of them, just to
Yeah.
see other people and be supported and have that sense of
Yeah.
community. It's really great.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Oh, okay, we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, thanks.